Bloomberg, great report on an analysis done by two folks, Kenichi Ueda, who was at the International Monetary Fund, so you know he's not playing, and Beatrice Weider DeMoro from the University of Mainz. What was their analysis on? Well, how much of an advantage does too big to fail give the largest banks in America? Now, here's what they mean by that. It is a reality that since the banks that are the largest in the country did get bailed out, and the perception is that they will get bailed out again, they can actually borrow at lower rates. Isn't that amazing? So if you're a smaller bank, sad day for you, you got to pay more than the biggest banks. But the biggest banks aren't actually rewarded for their success. They're rewarded because the government will bail them out every time they fail. So now everybody knows that. The question was, how big of an advantage is that? And that's what they did the study on, the two people that I just mentioned. And here's what they found out. That the big banks, because of too big to fail, can borrow at 0.8% discount. So let me give you an example. I mean, it's an easy one. Let's say a regular bank, a smaller bank in your local town, etc., can borrow money at 5%, and then they lend it out at a different percentage, and that's how they make their money. They lend it out at 8%, they make the 3% difference, as an example. Now, if they can borrow at 5%, the big banks can borrow it at 4.2%, 0.8% less, because they're seen as less of a risk because the government will bail them out. So you think 0.8%, what difference is it? Kind of a tiny bit, right? So their analysis shows that over a year, that taxpayer subsidy, in essence, comes out to $83 billion. $83 billion a year. Now, are you ready for this? It turns out that is about the same size of their profits. So if they didn't have that too big to fail subsidy, and they paid the same interest rate as everybody else, they wouldn't make any money. Those geniuses over there in the big banks, the only thing that they figured out that is smart is you bribe government officials and then they give you this tremendous taxpayer subsidy. Otherwise, their businesses suck. They're not even making any profit. All those mega capitalists, the geniuses that run the world, the masters of the world, right? Do you know that that taxpayer subsidy also equals about 3% of all of the taxes that we pay? So every dollar that you pay, 3 cents of that goes to the bankers for no reason. For the bailouts, which the American people hate, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, it doesn't matter. We all hate those bailouts, and they get 3% of all our tax dollars anyway. Now, how do they do that? Well, the one thing they did figure out right was, legalized bribery. Open season in America. So in 2011 to 2012, total giving by the financial industry, now that includes insurance, real estate, etc., $640 million spent in lobbying. Now, as you can see, of course, the lion's share went to Republicans, and it's not just contributions to Democrats and Republicans, but it's also to the super PACs, the so-called independent political action committees, etc. When you total it all up, $640,655,870. Now, you think they spent $640 million doing legalized bribery for their own health? They spent that money so they can get back $83 billion. And $83 billion goes to the top banks. That's not even all the other industries, the real estate, insurance, etc. They get different kinds of advantages and tax loopholes, etc. out of our government. Best investment you can make, man, is bribing U.S. politicians. Now, it's a lot of money to put in $640 million. You get back $83 billion, that's an awesome deal. Of course, for the robbers. For us, we get screwed royally. And one last part of this, what happened? I thought conservatives wanted free markets. What kind of a free market is this, where the government bails you out and then afterwards you get this artificial advantage because you know the government will bail you out again? And then you crush the little guy and you don't have free markets, you don't have fair markets, you don't have fair competition because of government subsidies. If they were actually conservatives, if they were actually libertarians, they would hate this more than any other government policy. The reality is, of course, the Republican politicians are totally bought lock, stock, and barrel for the exact reason that I just showed you. They get the lion's share of all those donations. And if you're an actual conservative and you believe the Republican Party has your best interests in mind, I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. You're nuts. And they've been using you as a sucker all this time to get the money over to the banks.